All right. All right, that's everybody. All right. Let's get some white ink on there. There we go. Good evening. Good evening. All right. Let's get the, let's let that dry, I guess, and put the border on it. All right. Pencil. Let's sharpen that pencil first. It's a little dull. All right. So here they are. There's the discussion. Now we're having the scooter goes up to his ship. Got his stuff over his back. Going up some steps. Send him off. Let's get some architecture here. Steps going up. And over there. Let's see. So up, goes down. There's our two guys, and there's something. Over there. Yeah, I'll put boundaries on you guys here in a second anyway, so. There's the ship. back. Alright, let's do the same thing. Goes to the borders on this one real quick. Nope. Alright, there we go. Forest blue border on there. That's easier to read. Good evening. Good evening. Thirsty. Ah. Let's see. Where'd the dog go off to, huh? Alright, let's get some light on here, huh? Hey, Bosh, why don't you go lay down? Just my dog, don't mind him. How you doing, Bosh? There we go. See, I can clean up this other one while it's drying. Go. This one dry yet? All dry, I think. Where's my marker at? Nice little border. Alright, that's, well, 4 of them. So we've got the meeting, arrival, this is much further down the road, but Good evening over there on Kick. Yeah, I think it's something I think it was a thing I put in there a long time ago. I don't remember. It's been a while. I'm just doing some kind of rough storyboards for my story. So that's what we got kind of going on here. But I got these little kind of brown. I said they were note cards, but really it's just cut paper. Wish they were a little heavier, but they're okay. Let's see. They're fine for now. If I use them up, I can get something heavier. So that leads us up to stuff we already have. So he arrives and then he takes off into the woods. Bramblin. Oh, that's just my little concept project. So I've been working on for a while. I'm working on the story elements of it right now. So this guy, these colonists on this alien world, he is being tasked with going out and looking at a lost colony ship. They found a beacon. He has to go out there and check it out. And so it's him at the beacon. So, but playing around with this kind of a way of doing storyboards for the actual project. So next up, he should be going into the woods, into the bramble, into the tangles. I got a sliver of my finger. Found a Pokemon, huh? No, it's a whole big project I've been working on. So if you go to my website, Rainland Studios, and look under Personal, you can see a whole bunch of the images that I've kind of concepted out. Nothing is like set; it's a lot of exploration. You can kind of see it there. But anyway, the idea is there's humanity has settled on this world, and the planet itself looks like a giant tangle of branches, like a bunch of weeds all wound up together, or bushes, or things like that. And anyway, they get forced to land. They settle on the planet. They can't leave, and then they kind of find that there's not a lot of like energy resources or things that they can actually eat. So it's full of life, but they can't actually do well as a colony there necessarily. So they're trying to figure out what to do, because it's like they can sort of eat some of the things, but not very well. So they're kind of running out of the original supplies. This is set 80 years after their initial arrival, and so anyway, this guy gets sent out to check out a lost colony ship, and on the planet there's also these totems that are kind of evidence of a prior alien civilization, but they appear to be long gone, and there's no like biological remains or any of that there. There's just kind of some of these artifacts, and so they don't worry about it too much, other than it's kind of interesting. Anyway, this guy is sent out to one of the distant locations to look for the colony ship, see if there's supplies that he can find out about near the beacon, and see if he can't bring something home. So, appreciate that. It's a new thing. Helped me kind of maybe with this to a certain degree. But that's kind of the overall kind of story thing of it. thinking about doing a graphic novel, so I put together kind of a story, and these are some storyboards for that story I was just kind of going over. We're going into bramble, into the tangles. Put our border on here. So I just kind of did a bunch of these storyboards based off the beats I've already kind of come up with, and I can see kind of how to order them a little bit better, and if there's anything I'm missing kind of visually from the story. So that's what these are for. I'm trying to base it around the kind of Dan Harmon's story circle, which if you're not familiar with, let's see if I've got a, I guess this is a scrap piece of paper. But the idea is you have a circular kind of story, and make that darker. So it's the idea is you've got 8 steps around it, and so I think what is it? Yeah, there. So it's you need, go, search, find, take, return, and change. And the idea is you kind of move around the circle, and the bottom half is kind of chaos, where all your problems are, and the upper half is more of an ordered space. And so you move from order to chaos and back again. You kind of work in this circle, working your way clockwise around it. But you basically establish you establish the status quo, what's going on with your life at the moment. But then something isn't right, so you head out to kind of figure that out. So you go in search of that, whatever is that missing thing. And then you go through trials as you search for it. And once you find it, it calls this meeting the goddess, so like getting to the thing that you're actually looking for. And then when you take it, you have to pay a heavy price for it. And then through that process of paying that price, you return back to where you came from, but you're changed, so you're somehow become like a master of the new world that you've gone through. So if you watch a lot of shows, you can kind of actually just watch this happen as you watch like a short episode of like Samurai Jack or something. But he uses it all the time in Rick and Morty and other shows that he's done. And a lot of people have been pointing out that this kind of shows up in a lot of stories as a good way of kind of organizing your thoughts. So in his case, he needs to, their status quo, they have problems in their status quo, but they're stable. So like they're barely surviving, but that's kind of where they're at. But their survival needs are getting greater and greater, so he needs to go ahead and solve that problem. So he heads out to go do that, and he searches for the solution. What they're looking for is this ship that hopefully has some supplies and information and other things that they can bring back to the colony. So once he finds it, he discovers that it's not quite what he expects, and then in the process of taking what he finds, not to ruin the story, but he takes what he finds, and it causes him to lose what he was really looking for. And so, but he returns with something else that's better as a changed person for the situation. And so that's kind of the the nature of the story circle and how it functions as a way of organizing your story. So I want to make sure I told, if I'm going to tell a story, then I'm going to tell it in a way that's coherent and makes sense and all that good stuff. So, but I want to kind of rough out a bunch of these beats so I can kind of lay them out and see them all visually. And I thought this would be a good way to do that. I was doing these on a whole sheet of paper, but so yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on, and I've got a whole thing laid out where I'm laying out beats and what we can do with the story and optimal ways of approaching that. But it's I was watched a Samurai Jack episode recently, and the status quo is he's trying to, so he's out in the woods and he's fishing for a fish and in the river, and he's trying to catch something. And things are kind of safe and stable, but as he catches the fish, he discovers that as the first fish he starts to see is after he starts trying to catch them, is that the fish are all dead in the river, and there's this weird gas coming down the road. So that's kind of his status quo. That's his you moment. And his need at that moment is he's hungry, and there's danger out there, so he needs to figure out what this danger is and find something to eat. So he searches, so he goes out to figure out where this is all coming from. And as he's searching, he comes across a city, and he spends a lot of time in this town trying to figure out what's going on. He's going through all kinds of trials because the gases keep floating through it, and people are passing out. They're giving him a hard time. They won't answer his questions directly. It's just a brown paper. They said they were brown note cards. They're kind of lightweight to be note cards, really. But it's just a brown paper, like the paper I draw on in my sketchbook. They've cut it down to a smaller size to use as like a note card. Came in this package like that. But I thought it was convenient for this because I wouldn't have to cut up other paper. But Jack, so he's searching and searching, and he's finds out that there's a dragon in a mountain. So he heads that way to go confront the dragon and defeat it for the terrible gases it's putting out there. So he continues his search, and he finds the dragon. And it turns out, as he's about to fight the dragon, so he's about to take, that the dragon is really not the problem. There's some kind of gastrointestinal problem that the dragon has. So it's not a problem that he can confront with his usual, the use of the sword and fighting and skills like that. He has to give up everything in the process of taking what he wants, which is, the taking is the trying to solve this problem, and he has to enter into the dragon, has to be eaten by the dragon in order to go to help solve the problem. And so he heads into the dragon, risking his life, trusting the dragon, and finds out inside that there's actually a baby dragon hatching inside and stuck. And so he helps the dragon hatch, and he gets free, and he returns back a respected person for having dealt with the problem and saved the dragon, and the town has a new baby dragon to hang out with. Oh yeah, it's part of your last name? You loaf my art? Appreciate that. Um, um, yeah, but it was just kind of interesting way they start paying attention. A lot of stuff you watch, they'll kind of organize the stories around that story circle. Because what it does is it allows you to kind of reset everything at the end while advancing the story. So I'm trying to kind of use that as a pattern. It's not an absolute, like you can always change things or move things around. But there, let's get some white on there. I'm trying to do these loose and kind of keep them pretty gestural and. This is his drone. It's a round ring thing. Dragon's part of your last name, huh? But so that's what I've been working on. A lot of the writing stuff, is kind of not that interesting, I think, for live streaming. So, and then, see. Your mom thought you were calling someone? Well, you know, I'm just very conversational. Alright, let's let that dry. Let's see. Now I'm good at surprising moms, right? Let's see. Gotta wait half an hour, Bosch. My dog gets an evening piece of frozen broccoli. Scrap. Yeah, the story circle is an interesting way of lining things up because you know what certain elements you want in your story are. Um, you kind of plug them in there, and then fill in the other parts. So that way to kind of make sure that you know how things kind of connect together and why they have meaning for each other and how the story kind of moves itself along. So things aren't just randomly happening. I mean, you can do that too, but usually you want to have like some kind of path for your story to follow. There we go. Now we've got the let's see. Here. Order. So there's the couple. They're being told to go on. He's being told to go on the mission. heading out. He's on site. I've skipped the in between because I've already done those pages. He flies out there, and this is him getting into the site. So, some kind of problems for him to run into while he's running around. Hopefully it didn't scare her too bad though, right? Make a mascot, huh? I don't know. Not sure what I would do for that. Next, he'll be wanting me to start doing some VTubing or something. I'm gonna go give him a dangerous place to jump off of or climb down. There's maybe a place he has to go down. Yes, the search is the road of trials. Stuff down there for him to deal with. Well, this guy is they call it a tree hopper. So because of the way the planet is, there's kind of giant tangles of massive branches all over the planet, and so he's a tree hopper, someone who specializes in exploring the environment. And so, tree hopper. But, so, borders make a difference. It helps kind of clean up the edges. Even if you're going edge to edge, it's still helpful to have one on there. What I need to do is actually come with some kind of pet for them to have, maybe some kind of alien pet, something they can have, but doesn't really take from what they need. And so I've been thinking about that too. It's like I've got like a squid-faced squirrel thing I designed a while back that I think would be fun to kind of have be a pet for them. This one, I guess. Some light here, shadow around it. There we go. That's indent time. I don't know. What would you recommend as a mascot? I am wearing my official university art department shirt today. And Part of this project is doing for me is letting me kind of bring together a lot of the things that I have interest in. So things like I got into the whole plant thing a few years ago. Really got into it during the pandemic, as time being alone all the time, living in Florida, far from family. Had a new job. I just started before COVID happened. What was it? Ringling College of Art and Design, and so I started making like a little native terrariums among others, and collecting houseplants and things as part of that. So, but I've been, kind of include some of the things I've kind of seen and experienced and learned about doing those to include as part of this. Um, I appreciate that. Nice of you to say. Oh, I'm kind of out of your view. Huh? Make sure I keep that in the right spot. I always remember to look at the screen to make sure I'm staying in sight. I'm trying to cover like the first story circle and the first arc of the story. There's a whole larger story where it's there too, but you can kind of cycle it forward. So it's a way of kind of creating an ongoing story by repeating it or cycling through it multiple times. But can I follow you back? I don't know. Take a look and see who you are. I don't always follow people back because I've got a lot of people I'm already following. It's hard to shepherd that many people, but I'll definitely take a look. Yeah, hair sticking on the edge of that brush. Looks like a hair sticking on the edge of the brush. Good. now. There we go. Yeah, I'm trying to think about like what the big shots of each scene are going to be like. So. Let's see how we're doing for time. 9:14. Did a similar thing for another story where I kind of did quick sort of sketches. All right. the borders on there. Marker pad. Wet ink on there. So maybe he's looking at the rough terrain he's got to deal with. Let me think. What might be next? Maybe I should stop there and think. So this one we did earlier today. That one. That one. And skip the one where he flies out. Maybe I should just do that one where it shows him land and all that, just so I have it in the stack. And then that's encountering the actual location of the beacon. Dry off ink. There we go. That should help. One more stampy time there. There we go. I think I got most of it off. Yeah, I might stop there just because clarity on this stuff, and then give me some food for thought. I can work off verbiage, but it does always help to have visuals over verbiage. Oh. All right. I think that's pretty good for today, though. So. Yeah, there we go. Spread them out here.
Pull back on the camera for you.
Let's move that up. Over. There we go. That out of the way. I have to do like some kind of shot of the colony as an establishing shot, just so we can see it. Good evening. Working on my some storyboards for that comic project. So I'm gonna pull this back. There we go. There's another one. And here's this one. This one happens later though, so. Yeah, maybe I should do the ones that are in between, where he lands and flies out. Even though I've got pages for those, it may be helpful to have them all kind of laid out like this. But you need go search fine. Now we need take, return, change. So, but anyway, I'm going to call it there for the evening. But thanks to everybody that came in. I appreciate it. And a nice little short session here. But have a good night.